Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9.
Hey, good morning to you. It's the 18th of August. It's a Tuesday here on the Daybreak Show. And Spencer, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning. What's going on?
Not a lot. It was, again, another warm one yesterday, continuing on through the weekend, I'd say. But changes in the air, is that right?
Yeah, we're going to be in the mid, maybe upper 70s. It'll be delicious today, a lot cooler.
Boy, that'll feel completely different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a beautiful day.
Coming up on the show today, COVID numbers for you, some details on fires in the Olympic National Park. We'll talk about the goat relocation. Also, MTA has some news. And Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling from the Mason County Sheriff's Office will be on for the Sheriff's Sit-Down presented by Our Community Credit Union. And we'll be talking with him about some of the incidents at Party Rock and Belfair State Park over the weekend. Lots of large groups of people at those places. Since the report yesterday, Mason County Public Health notified of 10 additional Mason County residents testing positive for COVID-19, brings the total to 284 positive cases in the county. Mason County Public Health continuing contact interviews. And when a positive case completes their isolation period and is released by local public health, they can return to work and normal activities. I had heard yesterday some reports coming out that as they're looking at the vaccines for COVID-19, they're starting to, I think, get an understanding that in many cases, folks who had COVID have at least a 3-month protection in their bodies from re-getting it.
Interesting.
So they're thinking that is that would be, I guess, the minimum protection period, at least to start for a vaccine on that one. But it said about 3 months. Whatever remains in your body to help protect you from COVID stays there.
Wow. I wish it was more like chickenpox where you could still re-get it as an adult, but generally once you get it, you get it. But this sounds like something that after those 3 months kind of barrier are gone, you can get it again.
Well, and hopefully, again, with this virus being just 7 or 8 months old, as we know it, more and more is learned every day. And so hopefully we're able to get somewhere. We're seeing a lot of tests that people are partaking in and doing what they can to do their part, to roll up their sleeves and get injected and perhaps inoculated and help out the rest of the world here. It's a race for sure to safely find and distribute a vaccine for this thing.
No, absolutely right. Numerous fires were started within Olympic National Park and Olympic National Forest on Sunday evening following abundant lightning strikes with minimal precipitation and high fire danger conditions. The National Park Service and USDA Forest Service are coordinating efforts with state and local partners. There are currently 10 fires detected, 5 in the National Park and 5 on the National Forest, and all in fairly remote areas. Several fires are in the interior of the park and the northwest portions of the park and forest. One fire is located in the southeast portion of the National Forest on Mount Lena. The fires range in size from 0.1 to 1.5 acres. Resources currently assigned to the fires include a helicopter rappel crew, Type 3 helicopter with helitack crew, 8 personnel fire management module, and 3 wildland fire engines.
Boy, I had a buddy that worked up in concrete for many, many years as a wildland firefighter. He was working towards becoming a smoke jumper, but I don't know if he ever got to that point. But they would get them in and they would be, holed up in these remote areas working on these fires, digging fire lines. And it is just, a very dangerous situation at times. I remember talking to State Representative Dan Griffey, who's also a firefighter, about some of these scenes that they would have to go to, or knowing people that go off into the wildlands. And man, sometimes,
it's so dangerous. I have a friend who does that. And they just lost a couple of people in Nevada in an aerial crash. And that happens more than we think. We don't really read about it, when they're putting these fires out. They're doing it by air, and it's so smoky. It's so dark. They oftentimes lose planes. They lose a lot more personnel than we think. It's so dangerous.
You remember that movie Always with Richard Dreyfuss?
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
Dan Goodman and Holly Hunter, maybe, is the love interest in that one?
I think you're right.
That's a great movie. Capture and translocation operations now complete, with an additional 50 mountain goats moved in the final round from the park and the forest to the northern Cascades. So total since 325 mountain goats have been translocated. This is a partnership between the National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Forest Service to reestablish, and assist in connecting depleted populations of the goats. In addition to the 325 mountain goats released in the Cascades, 16 kids went to zoos, and that is up from 6 back in 2018 and 10 in 2019. So a grand total of 6 mountain goat kids headed to permanent homes in the zoos. And speaking of zoos, if you have Disney Plus or the Nat Geo channel, there's a show on there called Secrets of the Zoo. My gosh, Stephanie and Kaiser just watched this thing. Wow. They loved it. And it is fascinating. It goes behind the scenes and talks about all the animals in the Columbus Zoo in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, really good. That if you have Disney Plus, definitely take some time. A lot of folks will go watch the Disney movies or the Marvel movies or Star Wars, but they have a whole National Geographic section, which is just chocked full of amazing nature shows and documentaries. And because it's pretty fascinating, Kaiser doesn't realize he's learning.
That's cool. And I bet they're adding new stuff faster than you can watch it. I mean, there's got to be an endless amount of stuff on there. That's pretty cool.
It's really good.
One of these days I'll break down and I'll have to get it, because I like that you can watch it on tablets and you can watch it on your phone too. It's not, you don't have to be linked to your TV. You can watch it on the go too.
One login.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. That's nice. Last week we posted on our website, Facebook, and YouTube channel a 35-minute conversation with Dr. Alex Apostle and Kelly Neely from the Shelton School District about the start of the upcoming school year, which is 2 weeks from this week, I believe, right? School starts in a couple of weeks
2 weeks
already?
from tomorrow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Topics included lessons learned from spring, student access and equity, contact with students, teacher mental health, a typical day, meals, and what the curriculum could look like. This answers a lot of questions that parents are having with school starting in just a few weeks.
Well, beginning on the 22nd, MTA will resume some service of its Saturday service. While not at the same level prior to COVID, routes will be available to Camilchi and Olympia, along with routes in Shelton and Belfair. Dial-A-Ride also available in Shelton. So check out masontransit.org for more details on that one. And some Mariners news. Corey and Kyle Seager became the first pair of brothers in 19 years to homer as opponents in the same game. Well, unfortunately, the Dodgers go for the win, though, 11-9 over the Mariners. But pretty cool there, as Corey and Kyle Seager, with them being in the American and National Leagues, there's very limited times for them to even have this opportunity to play together. But boy, that's got to be pretty cool. That's got to be one of those bucket list items for a baseball player, to be playing against your brother in the major leagues.
That's pretty cool, pretty rare.
Yeah. So again, Mariners take on the Dodgers this afternoon, 3:00 pregame, 4:10 first pitch, and then everybody comes up to Seattle for the next couple games as they play the Dodgers again right here on the radio. Coming up today here on the show again from the Mason County Sheriff's Office, Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling for our Focus on Shelton, presented by our Community Credit Union. Also throughout the morning, living the country life and exploring the Northwest. We'll have more political insights and focusing on the White House as we are getting closer and closer. Yesterday was the first day of the Democrat National Convention. As it was a virtual affair, and they had a lot of speakers there, ranging from the former First Lady Michelle Obama all the way to some prominent Republicans, including a former Ohio Governor John Kasich, who ran against President Trump in 2016. So it's the first day of the Democrat convention. Next week, the Republicans get underway, and there's a lot of news in our ABC features for that. More Daybreak Show is coming up.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes here on the Daybreak Show. On the phone line from the Mason County Sheriff's Office for our Sheriff Sit-Down, it's Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I am well. Spencer. Nice to talk with you here. We've had some further incidents up at Party Rock that we're going to talk about today, and this is something that seems to come up every year, but now perhaps a little more than past. It seems a little busier up there.
It does. I don't know if it's a combination of other counties being in Phase 2, Phase 1, modified different things, but boy, our whole county seems to be busy with people from out of county as well as our locals going out and recreating.
It really is. It's a tough place to go. We've talked about it over the years, and recently last week, you and Spencer talked about it, but it's a tight road to get up there. It's a dangerous point that people gather, and we've had more incidents.
We did. Just last Thursday, we had a couple kids that were up with the church group visiting from California, and we had a 25-year-old drown, and it sounds like there's no alcohol or anything like that involved. He just couldn't swim real well, and he jumped off the rock, and he didn't make it.
So, again, when we've talked with you guys, the Sheriff's Office, about this, who's the jurisdiction on this? Is it being monitored? And what can we do to help not only protect the lives of the people that are up there, but the folks that live up along that road?
Yeah, that is all Forest Service land. You've got you go State Route 119 up to the T where Big Creek is, and then once that road right there is Forest Service, and then it goes back in to national parks when you get to Staircase. So the road is actually a Forest Service road. It's not a county road. It's not a state route. But Rock also has some significance with the tribe, and some of the things that are adding to this is one of the first years that people have no public access to Lake Cushman because the only boat launch up there used to be a state park. It's now owned by the Skokomish tribe, and the Skokomish tribe, because of COVID, has shut it down. So nobody has access to the lake on a public boat launch. So that's part of the issue, too. We cover felony crimes and that type of stuff up in that area because it's still within the county, but we don't necessarily patrol it, and we don't necessarily have the resources. That's Forest Service, and they don't necessarily have the resources either. And boy, even just this weekend, we had a couple more disturbance calls with drinking and underage kids, and then the Forest Service had to go up and pick up apparently a tremendous amount of trash that was left up there.
People will come up. It was one of the hottest weekends we've had so far, and people will come up from all around the area, as you've been mentioning here. I understand the limited resources. Is there something that construction-wise Forest Service can do to at least make it even more difficult to park the cars along the sides of the roads? I know they had talked about paving that whole thing, but that seems like it would only encourage more folks.
Well, I know that we're meeting on Thursday with Forest Service, the national parks, and with some of the other local stakeholders that respond up there to see if we can help the Forest Service in any way. they are looking at grants and projects to pave, and if they did pave, what they would do is put guardrails so that you could not park anywhere along the Party Rock area. Wow. And they're also looking at, hey, is it time to just shut the whole road down and not give anybody access at all, because they have that capacity or that ability to do. They don't want to, but people are just being so irresponsible up there that they may have to.
Wow. Would there still be additional access points to Staircase if that road was shut down?
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to mitigate that because, you got a national park there.
Right.
And that's the access to it. So I don't know if they would limit it or I don't know.
Interesting.
That'll be something we'll talk about because, do you just let it keep going and more people die, not using good common sense up there, or do you hope people would use a little more common sense and be careful? It's kind of like the same issue that we deal with the High Steel Bridge.
Yeah. The other thing I had heard, too, as you mentioned some of the other parks, lots of gathering at the Belfair and Tahuya State Parks over the weekend, too.
Yeah. I heard that there was over 1,000 people at the Belfair State Park this weekend.
Wow. I mean, that's another tough one. And that's, again, a state park, so I can't imagine you guys necessarily have jurisdiction in there as well, but you have, I'm sure, help if needed.
Yeah, if they give us a call, the State Patrol or us, we will assist if we have people available. So it's kind of a collaborative effort depending on who's around and who's not so busy doing something else.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of people there at that park. It's a pretty big park, but still 1,000 folks parking in those lots and kind of moving could be something to think about and look at later down the next couple of weeks. So you guys are going to be talking with some of the principals there to make sure you can help out, or there's some options perhaps available down the road. But again, as we've mentioned, these areas are heavily visited by folks not only in Mason County but around the area. And depending on your county's phased reopening variance levels, people may be thinking to come out here, but it is not a smart idea, and it can be very dangerous.
Yeah, every year we lose people at High Steel Bridge and at Party Rock, and it's just it's a shame, But then again, I guess that's human nature, is to go out and try to enjoy and get away from their own little area and have something different.
Yeah.
Especially in the beautiful countryside that we have out here and the nature that we get to enjoy.
Yeah. Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling here during our Sheriff Sit Down, presented by our great friends at Our Community Credit Union, weekly on the air here on Daybreak. Thanks, Ryan, for the update. And if more news needs to be shared about these two locations or anything else, just let me know and we'll make sure we get you on.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You're listening to Daybreak on I-501 News Radio.
Good morning, it's Daybreak. Spencer Hughes and Jeff Slakey here with you until 9 o'clock. We talk a lot about coronavirus, obviously, and how it impacts all of us out there. And some of the ways it affects us is through our mental health, through our well-being. It affects us in very psychological ways. And there's a new non-scientific poll of about 2,000 people in America showing how coronavirus has affected our sleep. Something we've touched on in the past, but interesting new findings. 51% of Americans who took part in this new poll said the COVID-19 crisis is sapping their sleep at night. The poll showed 6 in 10 admit the news cycle surrounding the pandemic has affected their mental health, and it's a common theme that we're finding. 57% said they deliberately don't watch the news before bed, something we often talk about. There's just so much of the news cycle out there available at a second's notice. It used to be that if a crisis was occurring, you'd get the news on the 10 o'clock news, or even the headlines on the newspaper the next day, right? You'd wake up and there on the doorstep was the news that you needed to know. Now, with all sorts of media outlets and apps and things like Twitter and Facebook and every major news outlet having their own app, tweeting you at all hours of the day and night, it's almost impossible to shut it off. We can, though, and many people are doing just that, with almost 60% saying they deliberately will not watch the news before going to bed. It's the same reason we don't ruminate over the day's problems just before bed. We try not to think about catastrophic things just before going to bed. The survey showed 41% of respondents say their sleep schedule is the major stress point in their lives right now. The same number who say work life has them stressed out. 36% say their finances during the pandemic is sapping their sleep. 30% say it's their sex life. 27% say their romantic prospects or lack thereof in the age of COVID-19. All these things stressing them out and things that they take to bed with them at night. 36% say they're trying to eat healthier as a way of sleeping better. 31% say they're trying to exercise more. 27% read a book or listen to music before going to bed. 26% take a warm shower. The same number who say they meditate. 21% say they're trying to have relations with their partners, if you know what I mean, to knock themselves out before bed. Another interesting finding of the survey, 47% of those surveyed say they never realized just how much juggling they did between their work and their home lives until they started working from home during the pandemic. 62% say they're having trouble separating the two now that their home is also their office, and you could say also their classroom for their kids or for themselves. And of course, FaceTime, because of all these Zoom meetings and things, we even use them here, of course, on Daybreak. They've been skyrocketing because of the pandemic. So if COVID-19 is affecting your sleep, you're not alone. 51% of your fellow Americans agree. I'm Spencer Hughes with Jeff Slakey. You are listening to Daybreak. More news and conversation straight ahead.
I-Fiber One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
And good Tuesday morning to you. Daybreak Show rolls on. Good morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning. What's going on with you?
Not a lot. Just looking at the news notes and seeing the story that old Cliff Claven is coming to the rescue, not of Cheers, but to his second, probably, most favorite thing, the U.S. Post Office. Of course, John Ratzenberger played Cliff Claven for a very long time on an awesome TV show called Cheers, which now that I'm thinking about this, maybe some of the listeners, if they're younger than I am perhaps, have no idea what Cheers is. And what a great show it was.
It is a great show.
Do you remember before Woody Harrelson was on and Coach was on there? And it was Ted Danson's coach from when he played baseball or something, the old guy. And then Norm on the bar. I mean, that show had so many people on it. Kelsey Grammer playing Fraser Crane that he ended up playing forever.
And a lot of younger audiences, kind of like my younger kids' age or even the older kids, will remember him as the voice of... He did a lot of Pixar voices, right? He did the...
Yes.
I forget the name, but he was the pig in the Toy Story franchise. He was the piggy bank pig.
I think he's been a voice in every Pixar movie that they've had.
I think you're right. He may have been the voice of the dinosaur.
Somewhere in there.
Toy Story. The T-Rex?
Yeah, and he was the voice of a semi-truck in Cars. He played Ham in the Toy Stories.
Ham, that's right.
He played a guy named John in WALL-E. He played the Underminer in The Incredibles. He played Fritz in Inside Out. Anyways, he's great. Anyways, the whole thing when he was on Cheers is that he was, part of the post office. And so now he has got a video out where he's trying to help us figure out how to save the post office. And basically, he says, here it is. Do all your Christmas shopping early and do it at the post office. So if you were going to buy Aunt Tilly a new hat, buy her that much in stamps.
Oh, interesting.
I think I read if half of Americans bought $11 worth of stamps, the post office would be fine
for the next 700 years. Or for the next couple months or what? I wonder how long it would.
Who knows how long? But at least it's an option there, and so Cameo. This is a video service where you can pay money to hook up with a celebrity and talk with them a little bit. And you found another one as we move gears a little to Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, I think it's called Fanmeo. and this one's called Cameo, but the Christopher Lloyd one's all over. They must have spent a lot of money on Facebook advertising, because every time I open Facebook, there's Christopher Lloyd, and he's like, "Great Scott, we could talk together." And I don't know how long these videos are. It's probably, they tell you the price. It's like $300 or $400 to talk to Christopher Lloyd on a Zoom type video, like a FaceTime. But
yeah,
I don't know how long you get with him. That might be good if you're with him for like 15, 20 minutes or an hour. But something tells me it's probably like 2 or 3 minutes.
I'm looking at this. It says, FANMIO.com. So there is this silver package for $288. It does not say how long.
No,
Guaranteed to have a personal online one-on-one video meet and greet. For $388, you get a T-shirt.
It's an expensive T-shirt.
It just says starting at, and they have packages in different levels. That's pretty funny. That's a good way to do things. I mean, I guess
it's smart for these people, especially,
people like to connect with these.
Yeah, they're not making movies anymore. You know what I mean? Necessarily, Christopher Lloyd, it's a great way for him to keep kind of not that he doesn't make money off the residuals of all the movies he's made, but it's kind of cool for him to still stay active. There's a $24.99 package, by the way, and that's Breakfast at Nita's with you and me.
Nah, that's a cheap one. No. We have to pay for that, I think.
Yeah, we're out of pocket for that one.
All right, more Daybreak Show coming up.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber1 News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.